Every name you drop got roots in the grind. History speaks loud, just listen to the line. We struggle to shine, we honor the climb. We're losses hit deep, but sharp in the mind. Real don't flex, they just move with weight. Welcome to the legacy, room A-108, go to the legacy. Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome back to room A-108. I'm your host, David. Joining me as always, my co-host, CJ. Representing for the U today. Today's episode, we're going to unfortunately recap the Bears Week 2 matchup against the Detroit Lions. We'll have a lot to talk about there. Also, we're going to cover just the rest of the Week 2. So basically an overall NFL recap. A lot of injuries, unfortunately, so we're going to touch on those. And then last but not least, we're going to cover the Canelo versus Crawford super fight that we had over the weekend on Netflix. So we got, once again, plenty to talk about this week. So first reaction, CJ, what you got?
So thankfully, this wasn't even a game that I was even able to see a lot of. I listened to the majority of the first half on the radio. Got to my mom's house, picked the kids up because me and the wife were out for the weekend. So picked the kids up, dropped Tyler off for his football game. And then I had my AirPods in listening to, some of the third quarter before I just turned it off. But, from everything that I, listened to, it was pretty much a you-know-what show from start to finish, So, and then going back and, watching some clips that night, it was obvious that there was no reason for me to go back and watch that game in full.
Nothing.
That's not a game that I think that anybody should be bringing up the name Caleb Williams within their first kind of 4 or 5 first blush reactions, hot takes, whatever you want to say. He shouldn't come up at all when we really talk about that game.
Yeah.
Whether it was play call, play design, if you want to put in that first 5, your first 5 reasons for the way that game went. Defense, obviously, more pre-snap penalties from the offensive line. No real rushing attack once again. I don't know. But I mean, this is for everybody who remember when we did we were doing the CFP predictions last year. And that brought out everybody want to say, oh, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So for everybody who want to come at me and David last year when we was wrong on our CFP picks, please keep that same energy and go back last week. And I said, this is a game that might get out of hand.
You brought that up too when we were texting.
I said it.
Yeah.
I said, this is a game that might get out of hand. I said it last week. Lo and behold, 50 burger. And it went pretty much the way I said it might go. So... yeah, that's one that. What was Fluce's favorite line? Was like, we just got to flush it and move forward. I guess that's one way you can call back the ghost of Eberflus. You got to flush it and move on, man.
Keep that ghost, man. keep that ghost. Also, like CJ said last week, if you go check out the episode, we both predicted a loss. Doesn't make it any easier of a pill to swallow. I unfortunately watched beginning to end. When it got to a point where it was a blowout, I wanted to turn it off, but I'm like, you know what? I want to see if there's any fight in certain players, or are we giving up? I wanted to see if there was a difference in body language compared to what we had last year. And that's something I also want to talk about, but I'll get to that. It's so as the game was going on, like, because we're doing this podcast and now we have this platform, the first thing I'm thinking about is like, all right, what do I want to talk about that this team needs to work on? And I was immediately overwhelmed with it. It's a lot. So one thing I will say is I am getting tired of excuses. And that's not for Caleb. It's not for Ben Johnson. This is for the Bears organization as a whole. I'm getting tired of excuses. And before anybody's quick to run and jump off the bandwagon, let's get that out the way. Like, people were like, oh, I don't know how you're a Bears fan. You should switch teams. You're not a fan of any team if it's that easy for you to jump off when things are bad. I don't care how bad it is. Doesn't matter. Like, you're a fan. That means you have an investment in that team. I mean, if you can jump from one team to another, you're not a fan. You're just jumping on a bandwagon, which if that's your thing, that's your thing. But it's people just always want to come like, oh, man, I can't believe you're a Bears fan. Well, I can't either, but unfortunately I am. So it's just what we have to deal with. But, I mean, you have the defensive line. If you want to give Caleb a whole reason why we're losing, what about Montez Sweat? What has he produced? He's getting paid like what? He's the highest paid player on the team besides, or is it Jalen Johnson?
Well, I know for sure he's top. I think he's the 9th or 10th highest paid defensive end in the league.
So that's one of the people I wanted to bring up as far as lack of effort. If you watch him, I mean, granted, he's in a hard situation because we don't have a star-studded defensive line, so he's getting, double teamed or whatever. But it don't matter, man. You're getting that money, you got to produce. DJ Moore is another one. Granted, you can only do something when the ball's in your hand, but his body language tells a different story. So, and I can't just point them out. Defense is non-existent, which is something Bears fans aren't used to. Even when we're bad, usually our defense is good. Even when Flus was here, we were getting whooped, but it was like 21-17 or 21-14, only giving up a few touchdowns. I can't remember the last time we had a defensive. This is 2 weeks now. So 2 weeks, we've been up 80 points in 2 weeks. So this is something Chicago fans aren't used to. And it's such a bigger thing than Caleb. And I think I was watching the interview after the game, and I think Ben Johnson is like, damn, okay, this is what people are talking about when they're talking about Chicago's dysfunctional. Like, this is the mess that he inherited and he has to overcome. So it's a lot, man. And I'm not throwing in a towel, but I was very optimistic. I used the word cautiously optimistic, but it's worse than what I thought as far as where this team should be as opposed to where we're at.
One of the things that I'm gonna give this until the bye week. And if anybody wants to argue that I'm giving it too much time, hey, have at it. Might be right. But this specific aspect of the team, I'm giving into the bye week to see. Where have the top 4 draft picks been from this past draft class?
We said we were going to talk about that. Yeah, that's...
Where have they been? So they've been non-existent, bro.
Can I throw out this stat real quick? I was waiting to bring this up, too, because I was looking it up. Birded was around, or on the field, 17% of the plays. Loveland was on the field 53% of the plays, 1 target. Turner and Tripillo, however you want to pronounce it, Ozzie, healthy scratches. So our top 4 picks, we had 4 picks within the first 2 rounds, which generally are starters. 2 of them didn't see the field. 1 of them pretty much didn't see the field. And the other one had 1 target, so it didn't matter. So that goes along with, why are we drafting these weapons, not addressing needs, and we're not using the weapons? So go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, for sure. And the thing, I think, when you kind of zoom in on Loveland specifically, and you pivot over to Indianapolis, and you see another team that drafted a tight end very high, first-round draft pick, they're finding every way to get that man involved in the game plan.
Making Danny Dimes look great too, man. So
it's just, and I think the reason why I say I'm giving it to the bye week to see if that kind of shifts is one of the things that I just remembered. Honestly, I just remembered it driving in. There were multiple national reporters who, after the draft, came out and reported that the Bears turned down offers from teams that were willing to trade up to 10.
Yeah.
And they were so convicted on Loveland that they turned down opportunities to trade back and get more draft capital because they were convinced that this was somebody they needed to have.
Yeah.
Okay. If that's somebody that you needed to have, that you were willing to turn down draft picks for, where has he been?
And so everybody, just so we're clear, we're not knocking Loveland, though. I mean, I'm not defending him either, but I'm just saying you can't draft someone that high, missing out on, I mean, we still didn't address left tackle. We didn't address D end, D tackle. We didn't address none of these. And we got another tight end, which we already are established at, and you're using them half of the time on the field, and then you're only passing it to him one time a game. And I think he had 2 targets, so 3 targets in 2 games. So it's what's the point? Why waste that draft pick?
Yeah, and of course we're, this hypothetically speaking, but what if you were able to trade back from 10 to 15, 16 and acquire another 2nd or 3rd round pick and, give up on this dream of Loveland, who was, for all intents and purposes, a luxury pick because you didn't need him.
Didn't.
You have Cole Kmet on the roster. What if you were able to trade back, acquire an extra pick or 2? Simmons is still on the board. Saw how far he fell. He's looking like a steal right now for the Chiefs.
One of the guys that were available at the time, Tyler Williams, he was tearing us up. He was tearing us up, and he was on the board still, too, in the 2nd round, after 3 picks in the 2nd round. And he was tearing us up, and defensive line. It's just, it's frustrating, man.
I'm willing to give it until the bye week to see if they're able to get him more involved and make that pick, make a little bit more sense to us from the outside looking in. And obviously it's easy for people to say that we're looking back on it in hindsight. That's what everybody does with every draft. The only way you can evaluate it is in hindsight.
And sometimes it takes years, too, to have it accurate.
Absolutely. So they come out they got a week 5 bye. Hopefully by then, and coming out of the bye, you see an uptick in his usage, his targets, and make me specifically feel a little bit better about that pick. But right now it doesn't look good. And that's just specifically talking about him. That's not even getting into Luther Burden, who I was high on. Yes, I wanted him.
But rightfully so.
Yeah, I was excited about the pick. He's somebody that could easily be a top 2, top 3 receiver on the team. So between those 2, and then like you said, Turner and Trapillo, 4 picks in the first 2 rounds and not getting anything out of them so far, it's a letdown, man. So if I don't see something change by the bye week and coming out of the bye week, you're gonna see me start hitting the panic button and sounding the alarms when it comes to roster construction and Ryan Poles, and who got an extension. So he ain't going nowhere. The Bears do not eat money, traditionally.
Yep.
Them firing Eberflus last year was the first time that they were really willing to, kind of pay somebody not to be here at that level. So I don't know, man. We got an interesting next 3 to 4 weeks to see, if this team is able to, to right the ship. But first 2 weeks ain't looking good, I'll tell you that.
So there's something I want to ask you. I'm pretty sure I know your answer, but I still want to ask you just to get your response, because I know you're not overreacting early, but this is something that raised a little bit of concern for me. And not a great deal, but there's a little bit of concern. But how concerned are you on a scale of 1 to 10 that Detroit's offense didn't miss a beat without Ben Johnson?
3 or 4.
So it's low.
Yeah, because I think I said before that I expect, when we came out of the week 1 game, the Packers game, I said I expected them to struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
When you lose that many people from the coaching staff on both sides of the ball, I expected a little bit of struggles to come out of the gate. And obviously over the years, the Bears are the perfect elixir for a lot of teams who are struggling. That's the get right game for teams right now. Play the Bears. We'll see what this coming week looks like for the Lions. They go to Baltimore. Who's to say they don't go to Baltimore and get the doors blown off them again like they did in Green Bay? then we'll just be right back here saying, yeah, all you gotta do is play the Bears to look good. And then when you play the other teams that are fighting for a championship, you see what's what. But yeah, I know what you're alluding to. You're trying to see if there's a little bit of buyer's remorse when it comes to Ben Johnson, but no, I was adamant on who I wanted here. He's not here, but my second choice, and I'm still rolling with him, was Ben Johnson, and I'm not jumping off. Like I said last week, I see kind of the vision and what he's trying to do, and it's just hopefully we can look back in a few weeks and say it just took a little bit of time, but yeah, 3 or 4, I'd say 3 or 4.
Has your win count changed for us this year? You had us at 9, and you said it can go 2 or 3 wins in either direction. As of week 2 going into week 3, where are you at realistically now?
Yeah, I might I might change that from going 2 in either direction to like 4 the wrong way. Yeah, I had week 1 as a win, and then I had this past week as a L.
Yeah, we both had them as a loss, but like we said earlier, we just didn't expect this kind of loss.
I had the Cowboys as a L, and I had the Raiders as a dub. So I had them 2-2. After what I seen, that's easily a 0-4, 0-5 start, staring right in their eyes. Who's to say that? I think it's the Saints in like week 6 or 7. That might be, looking at it right now, that might be their best bet at a win right now. But then you talking about starting the season 1-7, some. Come on, man. Yeah, of course my outlook changed a little bit.
What concerns me the most, but I'm with you. I'm not gonna jump off the bandwagon, or not a bandwagon, but I'm not gonna just give up on the team. But I feel like our issues aren't in season solvable. I think it's a personnel issue. So unless we're able to find ways around our weaknesses, things we could work on, discipline, which has been our Achilles heel. Penalties have been insane, especially on the offensive line. Although pass protection has looked, so that's one thing. So what we do in Chicago is can throw dirt on somebody, but we can't give them credit. That offensive line looks so much better pass protection wise than it did last year. And I'm saying that giving up 4 sacks, but I mean, you can't watch this offensive line, at least from a pass protecting perspective, and say they're not a significant improvement. Run blocking, that's a question mark. Can't establish the run. Another thing I wanted to touch on, Roschon Johnson was a healthy scratch. I don't understand why he, 3rd and 1, and we don't get a first down. We do 2. Caleb Williams wasn't even a tush push. It was a quarterback sneak. So Roschon is the man for that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what's even more frustrating. That might lead to some alarm sounding and panic button pushing when it comes to roster construction is, why wasn't there more kind of urgency to bring in other running backs off the street, even just for like a tryout, a look at, see, you got Nick Chubb was out there all of that time.
Good, man.
Looked good the last couple of weeks. He looked good last night. And if everybody can kind of come to an agreement that DeAndre Swift isn't really an every down back.
Oh, absolutely not. He's
then
not.
Why were you so, eager to just go into this season with him being your RB1, and a 7th round pick and an oft injured 4th round pick behind him? Like, it didn't make sense then, and it still doesn't make sense now. I thought that when, kind of those rumors were circulating about them maybe bringing in Chubb, I was like, of course.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, he's not going to cost you a lot. Yeah, he's on the tail end of his career, but if he still got something in the tank and he can be kind of that 1st or 2nd down back, or a guy who can get you 2 yards in a pinch when you need it, why not? But we'll see, man. It's frustrating that you see other teams around the league the days of like no NFL trades happening and no action at the deadline, like those days are over with.
Yeah.
We've seen trades already in the first 2 weeks of the season. Like the NFL is turning a lot more into what we see with, MLB deadline and, more action and teams willing to, say, hey, this draft pick or this signing isn't working. Let's move in another direction. But, there's other teams out there with a surplus of running backs that you could have went out there and tried to swing a deal, but just wasn't in the cards. And if the Cowboys signed Jadeveon Clowney off the street and he come in here on Sunday and put up a sack or two with a bunch of pressures, we got more to talk about next week because Bears fans gonna be in an uproar. Because now you're talking about 2 straight weeks playing teams with guys who are readily available to the Bears that they passed on and said that they were, we're good. We don't need no help. We good. You're not good.
Yeah, it's like I said, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that these, we can do some personnel shakeups, quote unquote. I mean, injuries have definitely played a role. Jalen only playing 2 quarters so far this season and looking like he's going to be out potentially for the season. If he has to get surgery, he's done. If not, we're going to be without him for a while. Gordon out. It's just a lot of injuries defensively. So that's a factor. But our defensive line, there's just nothing we can do about it. We got to roll with what we got. But besides that, I'm hoping, just something changes and something clicks. Not giving up on it, like I said, at least to the bye week, see what happens. Even coming off the bye week, see, after that break, see what happens. But it's unfortunately it's the life of a Bears fan. Actually, it's the life of a Chicago fan right now. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah. But so look ahead to Sunday, another game that I won't really catch a lot of. Well, I should be able to catch the back end, but my son's playing at 2:30, and then that's a 3:25 kickoff for the Bears this week. Any does your early prediction change? How do you see it? What are you looking to hope to see, want to see?
What is making me feel a little bit more optimistic is Cowboys defense is not really they're not going to put up much of a fight. So I think this could be the game where the offense can potentially get rolling. This is the first favorable defense, quote unquote, we'll be going against. So if that happens, that's a point of optimism. But at the other hand, Dak can very easily, him and CeeDee Lamb could have a field day. This could be the blueprint going forward where you got wide receiver 1, QB, Amon-Ra, he just, whoever had him on fantasy, they blew up this past week. So if that's the formula and there's nothing we can do about it, and that's just what the season's going to be. But I would say I had us winning against the Cowboys. I'm going to stay with that. I'm hoping that they overestimate us, and I'm hoping that they got beat up enough this past week in their overtime game to where, maybe we'll catch them off guard. I mean, we were getting beat so bad we pulled our starters for most of the fourth quarter, so they got a little bit more rest. Also, let's factor in the fact that we had a Monday night game, so we had a little less time to prepare for going into the Detroit. So there's a lot of factors, a lot of moving pieces, but I'm gonna go for a win for the Bears, and I know you're sticking with your loss to the Cowboys. So
yeah, I had it as an L. I'm gonna keep it as an L. One of the things that has me a little bit even more nervous as we sit here today is one of the things that's echoing in my head that you've said a couple of times is even under Eberflus, the defense was respectable. And now you're talking about Eberflus being a DC of a Cowboys team coming in here, playing against an offense that he's very familiar with. Not only does he have intimate knowledge of the personnel that they're getting ready to go up against, but he faced Ben Johnson twice a year for the last 3 years.
He really did play well defensively against the Lions.
Absolutely. So when you take those two things into consideration and the fact that the Cowboys are coming off a game where they just put up 40 points, dare I say that's another game that could get out of, I ain't gonna go that far, but I think the Bears will have a better showing at home against that Cowboys team. But ultimately, I do see them coming up short. I'm looking at like 31-23, 31-24, somewhere in that range. But yeah, optimistic, hoping that at some point here in the near future it turns. But like a lot of Bears fans, they just gotta get to a point where they show us, instead of, them doing this to us every year. And we fall for it like suckers every year. We'll be back at 2026 is our year. We'll be talking in next February. Day after next Super Bowl, we'll be talking about it. It's our year. Regardless of how this season goes, we'll be saying it's our year next year.
If you don't get anything else from Room A-108, you're going to get optimism from me and this guy here. Cautious optimism, like we say. But
there's some realism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we'll keep it real for sure.
For sure.
Also, quite a few good games this past week. Are you ready to throw the flag in on Kansas City, the almighty Chiefs, or you think it was just two close games that could have went either way? What do you think?
Not yet. I think the thing that they should be nervous about is they look like they in a division with 4 teams that's going to be respectable.
Yeah.
They already got 2 losses, one of them being an in-division loss against the Chargers. And for anybody who's watched the Chiefs over the last few years, even when they beat the Raiders show up and they ready to play, and they've stolen a game or two from them over the last few years.
You see Tom in the press box with his headset on, man.
Hey, if nobody's gonna be upset about Irsay's daughter on the sideline with a headset on taking notes, then shut up about Tom. And I'm not even a Tom Brady fan, so that coming from me, should say something. But yeah, the Chiefs are now in a division with 4 teams that can ball. They're not beating up on. That's not 6 wins that you could chalk up for them no more. The Chargers are here. That's a team that Harbaugh got them ready to play, and they might be looked at right now as kind of the favorites in the West since they beat them already. And, the Broncos are for real. That defense is for real. And the Raiders are going to play spoiler to somebody at some point coming down the stretch, I would assume. But, yeah, I mean, they're going to beat up on each other, so anything can happen. But, until I see them buried with the tombstone on them, I ain't counting them out yet.
And it's also looking like Packers are just a force to be reckoned with this year. Jordan Love balling out, beating a very commendable Commanders team, made it to an NFC Championship last year. So something I also want to ask you. I kind of know your answer because you don't overreact too quickly, but I still want to know your answer. C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels, were they lightning in the bottle? What do you think?
I don't think I can say that either one of them are yet. If there was one that I was lean more towards saying yeah to, it would probably be Stroud. Only because him and that Texans team might have just caught some people off guard coming off the year that they were coming off before he got there.
Yeah, new coach, new offense.
Yeah, new coach, new offense. A lot of people probably weren't taking them seriously. So maybe that one you could, but I'm not going to disrespect either one of them by saying that they can't ball or it's lightning in a bottle. But Jaden Daniels and that Washington team will be there at the end. As long as he's healthy, they're going to be there. I definitely think that Dan Quinn is going to be able to do his thing with the defensive side of the ball. And then, everywhere that Cliff goes when he's not the head coach, he gets a lot out of his quarterbacks and his offense. So they'll be there. Both of them are still young. Both of them talented, super talented. So I'm not ready to say lightning in a bottle for either one of them yet.
Yes. Speaking of Jaden, as long as he's healthy, I mean, we had several injuries to key players, specifically quarterback. We got Burrow out for at least 3 months. If the team is competitive, maybe he'll come back. If not, probably just sit the year out. Justin got hurt. Purdy's out. I mean, you're just seeing
McCarthy.
Yeah, McCarthy got hurt again.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt bad for my boy, man. So there was a stat someone put up. He had like a 37.6 QBR. And they were like, if he, in those same amount of attempts, if he just spiked it every single time, he would have had a higher QBR than what he had.
That's tough, bro.
I'm like, man. And I was talking big game about him last episode. So if y'all saw it and it's omitted next time you go watch it, because I'll take it.
He said,
out.
scrap that. He said, do not go back and look at that one.
But I mean, still, I'm like you. I give you the benefit of the doubt. Like, bad weeks happen. We get it. On our side, like we said, Jalen, he's hurt. Kyler Gordon's still hurt. Man, it always happens. There goes through every season. There's a swarm of injuries early on. And then, they happen throughout the year for sure, but it seems like the worst injuries happen early. I don't know if it's just the time off and then your body just jumping right back on the field, but just, man, it's that first swarm. I remember, years ago, Brady out week 2 with ACL tear. You always see stuff happen just early on in the season. So I hate to see it because it looked like, the Bengals, they actually started off with a win when, they're known to start off slow. So, Browning, right? That's the
Jake Browning.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully he can keep them afloat. If he can at least keep them around 500, they should still be in the hunt for the playoffs.
Just tell them to go trade for Shador, man. Go ahead and make it happen.
So I gotta ask you, because you're a Ravens fan. Did you hear the report about Shador and the Ravens?
I don't believe none of that.
I don't, but I'm only asking you because I feel like a lot of times I feel like I'm crazy because everyone has this opinion, and I'm like, I don't. If it's true, right? So the report is the Ravens called Shador and they were going to draft him to back up Lamar, and Shador said, "No, I don't want to be a backup. I won't see the field." And everyone's like, "Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy. You should have went there or whatever. Now you're backing up in the Browns." If that were true, I understand. Shador was projected by everybody as the second best quarterback in this draft. What is Lamar? 26, 25, 26, 27?
Still in his prime either way.
He's not going anywhere for at least 8, 9 years, 10 years. So
left, yeah.
I understand 100% that that's no fault of his. So, which I agree with you. I don't even believe most of the reports that come out anyway. It's like, I agree with them. I don't want to go play there.
But my problem with that report is the way that they worded it, or in the way I read it, was if the Ravens called him at some point in the 4th or 5th round, which is what I remember reading, saying that they were looking to draft him, and he said, "No, I don't want to be a backup." Anybody calling you in the 4th or 5th round, you gonna be a backup, bro. Yeah. So it's like, that's why I said I don't believe none of that.
True.
A lot of that is just nobody's calling you in the 4th or 5th round to offer you a starting gig. If you getting drafted that late and you slid that far, you a backup, or you third string, or you fighting for a roster spot. So that's why I say I don't believe a lot of that. A lot of this is just pile on season when it comes to Shador and his family. Pops ain't out there looking too hot in Colorado, so it's a lot of reporters trying to get their rocks off on dogpiling the Sanders right now. So, man, it is what it is. I ain't trying to put too much energy into that.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask you. I saw it. I was like, I want to see what CJ's opinion is on that. But no, I just think is a lot of times I read the reports. I'm like, it's just ridiculous. Like it's stupid. So, yeah, with all the football out of the way, I mean, that's going to dominate the majority of our conversations in the near future, at least for the next couple months. But, you and I, one of our favorite sports besides football, we love boxing. We love combat sports in general, but boxing, before we even had this show, we had a group chat, where we all just debated boxing all the time. Matter of fact, people would lead the group because they would get mad about how we were arguing. But
leave the group, ask to get put back in the group, come back. You know, some of them they only wanted to be involved around, you know, prize fight seasons. So, and then the rest of us, we in there debating BS top rank fights. So.
Yeah. Yep.
For sure.
So we had Canelo Crawford. I was talking to my brothers, and it's so funny that so I was texting my brothers, and I was like, man, this is probably the biggest fight on, you know, like as far as like legends since Mayweather Pacquiao. You can argue Fury Usyk if you want to, but the heavyweight division to me just isn't the caliber of what Canelo Crawford brought to the table. That's just my opinion. I mean, I'm not gonna say you're an idiot if you disagree, because Usyk and Fury was a huge fight. And then they said it like 5 minutes later. They were like, this is the biggest fight since Pacquiao Mayweather. I'm like, man, I said the same thing, just as far as in boxing, you don't get the super fights like that. And this was one of those. And I loved it. I loved it from both ends. I loved how, you know, Crawford, you know, we talked about this before, like that undefeated with Mayweather, like how he changed boxing. Now people don't want to get that blemish. And you got two guys in there where like Canelo didn't have to take this fight. He would have got the same paycheck no matter who he fought. Crawford didn't have to either. He's undefeated, and he went up 20 pounds. So I loved every bit of it. I want you to talk, but we got some apologizing to do. But I want you to say your piece. But we got to touch on our post that happened right before the fight.
Yeah. So I think it's fair to say that at this point, I don't think we're ever going to see anybody truly hurt and damage Canelo.
Oh, yeah.
But I think his days of fighting faster, more technical, quicker fighters that can outpoint him at the end, them days over with him. I'm not even sure if I haven't heard any news about, you know, rematch clauses or anything like that. After seeing what happened Saturday, if they ran it back, I think it goes exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So, and that just a fact, kind of just the where both of them are in their careers. Both living legends, but Crawford is he's entering Mount Rushmore boxing status right now.
You have to put up a really, really, really good argument. You have to dig deep in your pocket to find an argument against it. So just segue into it. So right before the fight, I text CJ and I was like, man, I can't believe we didn't talk about this last episode. Like, it's huge. As much as we love boxing, this is something we should have touched on and it, you know, at least mentioned it. But, you know, with all the football going on and it slipped our minds. So I was like, you know, we'll put together your pick, you know, and the reason for the pick, and, you know, we'll put it out there. So what was it? Maybe like 2 hours before the fight, put it out there. And it literally, it's like you were living in my brain. 'Cause I think just the wording was different. It's almost like, you know, it's almost like I went in and had someone reword exactly what you said, but jumping up in weight, Canelo's defense, you know, punching, we just didn't know if it was going to be enough. And it wasn't even a knock to Bud. Like, it wasn't even a knock to Crawford, but it was just, you know, Canelo is that. He's the biggest prize fighter of this era post Mayweather. It's a fact. And 20 pounds is a lot in boxing. Like, that's the one thing people don't understand. People are like, oh yeah, he jumped. That's a lot in boxing. Like, where Canelo is at, that's the weight class he fights at. He's cutting from 180. So he's walking around, he's naturally 180 pounds, whereas Crawford is naturally walking around at like around what he weighed in at. So that's a huge difference. And we both picked Canelo by decision. And after the fight, I text you, I was like, man, I've doubted Crawford. Not saying he's not skilled, but every big fight that he's had, I didn't think he was going to come out on top, and he's proved me wrong every single time. Every single time.
You and me both.
Man,
So I think we both came to the same consensus that we were done doubting Crawford.
he's it.
I would never pick or bet against that man ever again until he hangs him up. He can jump in the ring with Ali reincarnated, and I'm picking Crawford from this day forward. I thought that there would be a point or two in the fight where we might see him kind of visibly hurt from the power. I didn't expect him to get knocked down or knocked out or anything, but I thought that you might see, a point or two in the fight where Canelo's size and power kind of just, overpowered him a little bit, and we never saw it.
Yeah.
And then I never thought that we would see a point where kind of got the reaction that we saw from Canelo on some counter punches, and I think that even more so than kind of just Crawford's own skill, I think some of Canelo's reactions went against him in the eyes of some of the judges too. Like just, kind of the way, the head whip and then him whipping around, looking back at Crawford like, yeah, how you do that? Like it was a couple of times in the fight where he got hit with some punches and he looked kind of like bewildered. So I think that went against him too. But it was kind of a lot of the stuff that started trickling out post-fight, like the interviews and, Canelo saying Crawford's way better than Floyd Mayweather. Now, some of that is probably playing to the crowd here, but
I was going to ask, like, I've only seen a written quote. Did he actually say that?
No, he said it.
Okay, all right.
I watched,
Okay.
So all the smoke box, somebody put it out. I don't want to give credit to somebody who don't deserve it, but somebody put out the actual video of him at the podium saying that.
Okay.
Like he said, no, Crawford's way better than Floyd.
Well, and so I commented on a post on Facebook not long ago too. I was like, big difference was Canelo, as much as Crawford had to jump up, Canelo had to cut that to get down to Floyd. Granted he was a lot younger, but still, like Floyd made him come down to him. Crawford was like, no, I'm coming to you. So as much as I love Floyd, I'm giving credit to Crawford for that because that's insane to jump up. That's why Floyd Mayweather turned out to be the fighter he was, because if you watch Floyd Mayweather at lightweight, he was knocking everybody out.
Mm-hmm.
But once he jumped up the weight class, he didn't have that power anymore, which is what I thought was going to happen with Crawford, and I was wrong.
Yeah.
Very
well,
very
he
wrong.
didn't jump the weight classes and necessarily take the power with him, because there was never a point in that fight where Canelo was visibly hurt, like knee buckling or cowering into the corner on the ropes. There was never any point in that fight where you were like, Canelo's in trouble, but there were multiple points in the fight where you were like, he getting his ass beat.
Well,
there's a difference between the two. Like when you watch boxing, there's a difference between somebody, taking an ass whooping and somebody, visibly hurt and getting knocked out. Like those are two totally different things when you watching fights.
In Crawford's defense, though, I don't think anybody's really ever visibly hurt Canelo like that. I mean, there's been a couple times where I've seen him like get hit, but I mean, man, first of all, his neck is huge, so he's not going to get knocked out just for that reason. It's like a tree trunk in itself. But Canelo, there was just no point where I thought Canelo was going to get. Even during the whole ass whooping the whole time, I'm like, yeah, he ain't getting knocked out. There's never. Matter of fact, the fight played out exactly how I thought, just flip flopped. Like it was going to be a chess match. It was going to be two elite boxers, finding their openings, finding their counters. Trying whoever could adapt quicker would win the fight, and it just Crawford adapted right away after the first round. Actually, that was it.
I knew our picks weren't going to pan out. I want to say it was the fourth. It was either the fourth or fifth round, and they came out and they went right to the center of the ring and they was throwing them, and I was like, I ain't expect to see that
at all. And
Crawford was standing right there in the phone booth with him, throwing, landing, not getting hit. I was like, oh yeah, I went against my boy and I wasn't supposed to. So yeah, but yeah, two living legends, two dudes that when it all said and done, you're gonna be mentioning both of them in the top 5 of fighters all time. But yeah, you'd be hard pressed to ask me my all time boxing Mount Rushmore. and not have Bud on it from this point on, man. That was hats off to him, man. Proved a lot of us wrong,
Yeah, no,
including myself. So I'll take the L on that.
I will never go against him. I don't, even if he doesn't fight. But I think the only other fight he could possibly have is Benavidez, right? If Benavidez
Canelo or Bud.
Bud. I don't even know. Canelo, he's trying to golf.
He could. It depends on where he's trying to settle in at. Is he trying to go back down to 54?
To fight who?
The only Fundora would probably be the only person down in that range. And I know he's getting ready to fight Keith Thurman. But if he's staying, up, at 175 or whatever that is, yeah, I don't know what would be next. I would think that the results of the Sebastian Fundora Keith Thurman fight coming up would kind of dictate what he does next. That might be a fight that he goes back down to take.
Yeah. But
I would rather see him settle somewhere than taking the Roy Jones route, because that's what messed up Roy Jones. All that up and down, chasing fights. Yeah. To his credit, though, he had to. He was beating everybody. Wasn't nobody from the fight, so he got to the point where I got to keep going up and down chasing fights. But that's a tough. It takes a toll on the body. Keep doing that, cutting weight, adding weight, cutting weight, adding weight.
Especially, he's 38 now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he'll be 38 in like a week, so it's not like. Regardless, his legacy is cemented. Even if he were to take a loss somehow, which I don't think he will, no matter who he fights. That goes along with what we're talking about, that Mayweather stuff.
If he fought Benavidez next and beat David Benavidez, Terrence Crawford the GOAT.
It's hard to argue, man.
I'll put that on tape, on wax, on film right now. If that man fought him next, with all the hype that David Benavidez got, and the train coming behind him, if that was his next fight and he walked out with a dub against him, that's the GOAT. And period, end of discussion.
It's hard to debate. It's hard to come up with an argument to oppose that. So I wouldn't even knock you for it. So also something I want to touch on before we head out of here, man. I was talking to my coworkers, and something that we got this past weekend is something that we haven't seen since really like the 80s. So since the Mike Tyson era, you've only ever been able to see big boxing matches on pay-per-view. So before that, you were able to turn on, I think, ABC or CBS. You can just tune in to watch those big fights, and everybody can see it, where the more eyes, the bigger the product. So I think they estimated they got somewhere between 40 million to 50 million households tuned into Crawford Canelo. It was like 100 million for Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. So Max Kellerman, he was selling it, man. He was selling the fact that Dana White, Nick Khan, I forget, was it Turkey? Turk,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, Turk. They're starting a new boxing organization, and this is the direction it's going in. And so there's a lot of optimism. So as a boxing fan, that's something that I'm looking forward to. You can kind of tell even with the undercard. I don't know if you watched a lot of the undercard fights, but they're trying to build it up, quote unquote UFC-esque, and it's not just the main event; it's the card. So like when you watch a UFC event, you're watching all 5 fights. You're not just watching the main event. So if boxing gets to that, I couldn't be happier.
I wouldn't fault him for following the NFL and the WWE model. If Netflix is good enough for those two entities, why not boxing? And why not, UFC at some point? At the end of the day, just being a pay-per-view event isn't enough anymore. Yeah. You gotta have the build-up behind it. You gotta have the promotion behind it. So just saying you having a pay-per-view event and not marketing it the right way and not having the backing behind it, you're not gonna get the buys anyway. Yeah. So you might as well put it on something a little bit lower tier, in quotes, and flood it with the top production, the top ads, and sell it that way. And I think that's what they seeing, especially when they saw that, oh, it's good enough for WWE and it's good enough for the NFL to double back and give Netflix even more games than they had, last year. Oh yeah. Yeah, we ain't got no problem with that either.
Yeah, it's a new era.
And they shouldn't,
New era, streaming services everywhere. I mean, and you might as well just have cable at this point. You got to buy all these other services anyways. But regardless, just being able to pull up Netflix and not have the disaster we had for Tyson and Paul, it was buffering through the whole thing. I think they kind of used WWE and the NFL game to kind of reconcile that issue. And I think because I didn't have any, I don't know about you, but I didn't have any issues with buffering through that whole fight, especially now that I'm knowing that it was like 40, 50 million people watching it. That's pretty damn good. So, man, it was glad we're doing this again, man. It feels good just having this back and forth with me and you. There's so much to talk about, and I love it.
Back in the groove, man.
I love it, man.
No disrespect to the people who we invite on, but
oh yeah, no,
we'll get back to that. That's coming in the near future. But sometimes you just got to get back to the basics and chop it up, especially with NFL season.
Yeah, and it's just like so. I mean, it's like two shows for us, right? I love having our guests because these are conversations where you can just sit down and have these conversations on camera, ask people things that you might not have known the answer. So that I love that aspect of it. This is just the other aspect of it where, this is how we came up with the inception of Room A-108 is this whole, focusing on Chicagoland, mostly Bears, Bulls, stuff like that. But the grand scheme of things, man, this is kind of just like what we wanted in the first place. So the interviews are coming. We'll have more of that. Season 2 is going to be bigger and better than last season. Going through, not going to say growing pains, but we're learning as we go. And yeah, man.
Hopefully next week we in here in a better mood, and fingers crossed that Bears play better, and hopefully got a little bit more pep in our step and cheer in our in our hearts, man, because they do it to us all the time, bro.
Yeah, they gotta do something, man. I'm tired of talking about what we need to do, and I want to brag on something.
Yeah, for sure, man. But appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all as always for all the support, all the views, all the shares, all the comments, all of that. We appreciate y'all to death, man, for sure. So catch me and David next time on Room A-108.